a great point. I mean, because, you know, there were a lot of, periods of confirmation, that I felt like, I experienced through my childhood, especially looking back on it. And like you said, these were, I feel like now, these were all seeds being planted, at certain points. I mean, it's just the little things, I remember I used to bet this man.
What's happening, y'all? This is Mike D with Black Fathers Now, where we're bringing the village to the brothers. Every couple of weeks, you can look forward to a quick inspirational message or a thought-provoking guest with knowledge and wisdom, all geared towards helping you be the best father that you can be. We're bringing the village to you. Now it's your turn to do something with what you learned. All right, y'all. Let's go. What's going on, fellas? This is Mike D, Mr. Double Down on You, with another episode of Black Fathers Now. Now, look, I always say this, but this time it really means something. This is a special episode, man. I got my man, Damichael Cole, and he is a sports reporter with the Philadelphia Inquirer. But the thing that's so special about this young brother is I've known him for years. It's like I knew him way back when. I knew him before he was a sports reporter with the Philly Inquirer. I knew him before he was going all over the place with Sports Illustrated and doing all this stuff and writing it. I knew him before all of that, which is a really cool thing. And so I wanted to have him on to really talk about his journey, talk about his story, some of his inspirations, but really what led to this young brother making waves in the realm of sports reporting in the big city. But he's from the country. He's from Memphis, Tennessee. And so he'll talk a little bit about that transition as well. But fellas, ladies listening to, let's welcome my man, Damichael Cole. What's up, brother?
What's going on, man? I'm happy to be here. Been listening for a while. So just hearing my voice on here now is going to be something, man. I'm happy to be here.
Man, I appreciate you, man. And I'm happy for you to take time out of your schedule to, to chop it up with us, really share your journey, share your story, but to also inspire some other brothers, maybe even inspire some other brothers with kids who got thoughts and inspirations on doing different things in the realm of sports. I appreciate you, man. But speaking of that, prior to jumping into your story, I want you to give a few shout outs, man. Like talk about your support system, those that are in essence the wind beneath your wings that allow you to be who it is you are today, brother.
Yeah, well, I mean, of course, it starts with my mom, man. That's, she's the one who's pretty much since day one has been, the main constant supporter who pushed me, throughout this entire journey. And, my father, my aunts, uncles, my grandmothers. It's been, they say it takes a village. It's definitely a village that helped me get here for sure. But most definitely, it starts with my mother. The sacrifices and working odd hours of the day just to make sure that one day I would get opportunities like these.
It's awesome, man. It's, and it's interesting. We're recording this right after Mother's Day. So it's really awesome for you to really, give moms a shout out. I know this is Black Fathers Now, but the reality is we would not be Black fathers without Black mothers. And so, right. So to that point, I really, I feel that, man. I'm a mama's boy, I'm the oldest and I'm a mama's boy. So I get it, brother. I get it. And so thinking about that, you talked about your shout outs and you really made your family a really core of the shout outs, right? Talk to us a little bit about your story. Talk to us a little bit about your journey coming from Memphis, matriculating to UT, inspirations and all of that. And what led you into wanting to become a sports reporter?
Yeah, man, a lot of it was just a lot of blessings where things just fell place, certain situations where they're hard to explain by saying nothing, other than, it must have been God's purpose for me. When I go back to my youngest days, my mom, my little brother and cousin, they can tell this story, as well as anyone in terms of me, my cousin, and my brother would share a room, three of us. I was the oldest. My brother, 15 months younger than me, and then my cousin is about 3.5 years younger than me. But we'd share a room. So, there'd be one TV in the room, and they were normal kids. They want to come home, they want to watch SpongeBob, they want to watch, Cartoon Network and things like that. But myself, as the oldest, I wanted to watch sports. I wanted to watch ESPN. I wanted to watch the latest, Sports Center and updates and things like that. So there was the tug of war there. And my mom, tells this story a lot about how, she just let me watch TV in her room because and it got to the point with, me being the oldest, I teased them about watching cartoons and look back on it. It's like I almost ruined them from having a normal childhood because what kids do. But, for me, it was just always a passion of mine. It was only a few cartoons that I really watched. I mean, I always watched sports going back to as far as I can remember.
What got you there though? Like, what was that thing? Was it a relationship with somebody? Was it, somebody you looked up to? Like, what was that thing? Like, I want to know, like, what was the inspiration behind that? Everybody else, the kids are watching cartoons. You were watching sports. What inspired that?
And that's why I point to purpose, because it's hard to pinpoint. My mom, but she didn't, watch basketball to the level that I did. I taught myself baseball. Everything about baseball, I taught myself to the point when I started playing baseball for my middle school in 6th grade when I was 12 years old. I knew all of the rules, but I never played for a team. Of course, when you come from predominantly, Black families, baseball usually isn't the center sport. In some cases, it is. You have outliers there, but in most cases, baseball is, and that's the case in my family. A lot of them don't watch baseball. I never still to this day been to a baseball game with my family. Baseball game that I've went to, 2 of them have been as a sports reporter covering them. So I feel like a lot of it was purpose, because I can't pinpoint how I started watching baseball. It's just something that, I gravitated to at a young age. Same thing with basketball. Of course, a lot of my family watched football, but same thing. I feel like maybe it was, I feel like I have a competitive nature, and, I feel like a lot of people have that, have a competitiveness, and, no one really likes to lose, but it's hard to pinpoint exactly one moment where I became, like a big sports fanatic or had this huge passion for sports. Because as far as I remember, it's always something that I've had. And I use the baseball example the most because it's the most clear example that I can give in terms of, no one taught me baseball. No one really taught me basketball. It's just at a young age, 5, 6, 7 years old, I was just gravitating to these sports over, the normal things that a child would want to do.
Now, I got a question though. So was it just as a fan, or was it as a player? Because what you also find typically, and this is interesting, a few episodes back, I interviewed Chris Broussard, and one of the things he was talking, he's a sports reporter, sports writer, all of that stuff as well. And one of the things he was talking about was when he talks to kids, and he fell into this category, and I can say I fell into this category as well. If you talk to Black boys specifically under the age of 10, and you get them all in a room and you ask them what they want to be, they might not play on a team. Every last one of them wants to be a professional athlete, professional football, professional basketball. So my question is, you were a fan, but were you also that one aspiring as well to be a professional sports player as well?
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. When I was very young, I think, let's see, Reggie Bush was 2004, 2000. So when I played Little League football, I wore number 5, inspired by Reggie Bush, of course. I was winning a couple like MVP awards, playing, running, all that. So, of course, there were goals when I was that young. So, when you talk about under 10, I think as I got to middle school, that's when I picked up playing baseball in middle school. And that's when baseball started to overtake football as I'm really good at this sport. And, I love playing this sport the most.
Mm.
And as I got to about high school, that's when it was like, I love playing baseball. And if baseball doesn't work out, I love, sports. I love, sports so much that I can see myself, becoming a sports commentator or a sports broadcaster, because it was kind of like when we go to purpose. I feel like another word that you can curtail off of purpose is destiny. And in this case, they kind of go hand in hand, because there were times where still the barbershop that I attended in my childhood, they used to call me ESPN. That was, how everyone has these nicknames at the barbershop. Black barbershops, there's a lot of sports talk going on and things like that. And I was 8 years old when I first started going to this barbershop. And it got to the point where when I got to about 9 or 10, I picked up this nickname ESPN, because, they knew me as the young kid who would come in there and ESPN, what's going on in sports? Like, ESPN, they started asking me questions and get, a lot of information out of me.
Hold on, pause there. And fellas, I hope y'all pay attention to the gem that Damichael just dropped there. He said when he was 7 or 8 years old in the barbershop, the brothers in the barbershop started calling him ESPN. Fast forward less than 20 years, you fast forward 16, 17 years, he's now a sports reporter with the Philadelphia Inquirer. So I want you to stop and you think about how important our village, our support network, and the people around us are in regards to helping to shape our future, both positively and negatively. Had he walked into the barbershop and they called him little whatever, little menace, or little terror, or little so-and-so, that could have stuck. But they called him ESPN. So that planted a seed inside of him that, you know what, I got something here. There's something in me that they look up to as grown men. And we have to be mindful with the young men that we inspire, that we motivate, that we mentor, that we coach, to make sure we're planting seeds that if those seeds actually grow, they can turn into something powerful. And use Damichael Cole as a doggone example. These brothers planted the ESPN seed. 15, 16 years later, he's a sports reporter with the Philadelphia Inquirer. Continue.
Yeah. And so when I was that young, they were calling me ESPN. And then, at school, of course, all the kids would come to school. We're talking about everything that's going on in sports. And that's how that passion, really developed. And that's how the purpose came in to be, a sports reporter more so than an athlete.
Hold on, check this out. You say the purpose and the passion. Mm-hmm. I would reframe it just a little bit. The purpose and the passion was there. All of these things were confirmation.
Yeah.
So you see what I'm saying? Like the purpose and the passion was there when you were 5 years old. You just like, I knew I'm into sports. I'm loving this. I'm loving that. The confirmation came when these outside sources started stepping in and saying ESPN, or everybody in school was like, man, what was the score? What was the stat line of, the Grizzlies last night? Or what was the something? They knew Damichael had the stats in his head. He was going to come with it. He was going to give you an analysis or a breakdown, like Stephen A. Smith, who, you know what I'm saying? Like he's going to come with it. You dig? And so that is powerful. It was confirmation because you had the purpose. And that's what I want folks to realize here. You got the thing inside of you. Sometimes we need confirmation. That's the importance of this village.
Yeah. I mean, and that's a great point. I mean, because, there were a lot of, periods of confirmation, that I felt like, I experienced through my childhood, especially looking back on it. And like you said, these were, I feel like now, these were all seeds being planted, at certain points. I mean, it's just the little things, I remember I used to bet this man $5 when I was a kid. Every time the 36 or so bowl games would be played, 35 or 36 bowl games would be played. And I had to be 9, 10 years old because it was before I got to middle school. I remember that specifically. We, go through every bowl game, the Rose Bowl, Fiesta Bowl, BCS National Championship, all the way down to, you know, the Peach Bowl, Hawaii Bowl, all the smallest bowl games. And we go, you know, circle the team we think we win. Winner gets $5. And, you know, little things like that. And, you know, so when you talk about, you know, in terms of being an athlete, yeah, you know, I had that same aspiration as a lot of the kids in my classroom. We all wanted to be, you know, Reggie Bush or Michael Vick or Allen Iverson, you know, those type of people. But I feel like when I got to middle school, then I developed this passion for baseball. It's like, now I want to be Derek Jeter. And then when I got to high school, that's when it was like, you know what? I want to play baseball, but if baseball didn't work out, then I'm perfectly fine with being a sports reporter, because you have these people calling me ESPN. You have these people, you know, making little jokes about, you know, Stephen A. And then in Memphis, another guy used to call me Ralph Wiley. Ralph Wiley was a big, I believe, rest in peace to Mr. Wiley. I believe he passed away in 2004. It was. So I was born in 96 now. So I had to be 7 years old when this man was calling me Ralph Wiley. And he was, you know, a big Sports Illustrated reporter, which is where I ended up, you know, my first big internship right after college. So, yeah, a lot of these things were kind of, you know, stored, you know, in me at a young age, I think.
So speaking of that, and you briefly said after college, the internship, my question then is, I mean, so did that then inspire you to go to college and pursue a career that's going to lead to becoming a sports reporter? Or, you know, where did the journey then take you after leaving Memphis?
Oh, it was never any doubt in my mind what I wanted to do when I got to college. And this goes to the point of I think the words that you're going to be saying the most are purpose and destiny, because some of this stuff, man, you just can't make up. And when I was getting ready to leave Memphis, you know, my thing was I wanted to stay close to home. You know, family. I always wanted to be able to come back on the weekends and type of thing. So I played baseball, and through baseball, there were smaller opportunities at a couple HBCUs and you know, some smaller colleges. And through sports reporting and, you know, being a sports journalist, I felt that going to mainly SEC schools were the schools that I targeted would be in my best interest in terms of creating the best, you know, network and taking advantage of the resources that these schools, you know, the money they put into the journalism schools and things like that, just taking advantage of those resources. So the baseball opportunities, I visited a couple of the things like that. And I wasn't sold enough to the point where I wanted to put baseball as my number one, you know?
Gotcha.
When I went to visit, and I went to visit Ole Miss, and it's funny to look back on, because when I say this, going to UT was never planned. Going to the University of Tennessee was never in the plans. For those that don't know, Tennessee is over 400 miles away from Memphis. So 6-hour trip. It's all the way across the state, Memphis in the west corner, and Knoxville is all the way. And it's a trip all the way across the state. I've never been past Nashville.
So whoa, pause. So you said you went to UT, all right, but UT was never in the plans because people don't understand how Tennessee is situated. Memphis and Knoxville are at opposite ends of the state. It's a 6-hour drive. And you said you had never been farther east than Nashville.
Right. Completely different experience. So before I got to UT though, I'll tell you this quick story. I visited UT November of 2014, which was my senior year of high school, just on a little, you know, the counselor said, hey, you know, I need some students to go on this trip. And the reason I went, one, it was free. 2, it was my birthday week. So I was like, look, I can go, Victoria College with my friends on my birthday week in 3. I mean, let's be honest, I'm a high school kid, and it's like, man, it's gonna be girls from schools all around Memphis. Me and my friends, I had a couple of my friends. We're gonna have a good time. And that's all I went for. And I still have a post on my Instagram page to this day, from 2014, where, when you go on those college trips and things, you create a hashtag. And we had a hashtag. And after that hashtag, I put hashtag UTK19 with a question mark. And after that question mark, I put LOL. And nobody really knew what the LOL was for, because it was like my own side joke. But I can tell people now it was because I was laughing, because it's like, I'm not coming here. Like, I went on that trip, didn't remember anything from it. The most I took away from it was being on the bus with my friends, being at the hotel room. I remember, them showing us around campus on the visit. Didn't remember anything. So when I went to Ole Miss, which was in May when I took my visit to Ole Miss, remembered everything. Still to this day, I remember certain spots of Ole Miss's campus, because that was, the school I really paid attention to. Now you're probably saying in May, you still didn't know what school you were going to. Yeah, it was a journey, because I believe on my graduation day, May 19th, I believe it was in 2015, when they said my name, Damichael Cole, they said University of Mississippi, because at that time, Ole Miss was the school that I presumed that I was going to. I was just waiting on, financial aid clearance and things like that. And once I got the money, I was going to be going to Ole Miss.
And that was closer too, right?
Ole Miss
that's closer to Memphis.
No doubt. Ole Miss is only an hour and 15 minutes, hour and 20 minutes. So it was like, I can come back on the weekends. And there was the concerns. Ole Miss has its rugged racism history. So, I had, my grandma didn't want me to go there and things like that. But overall, that like I said, it was an SEC school. Me wanting to be a sports reporter through and through, I wanted to go to one of those schools, take advantage of the resources and, get to cover the big sports. But what happened was one of my closest friends, Stu Boyd, was going to UT, and he told me about this scholarship that he had got. He said, I believe you meet the requirements for it. And it would have, given me a full ride. It was a scholarship for minority students that come from, I believe it was something like households under a certain amount. And essentially, of course, I grew up in a single parent household, so that made it, easier for me to meet that prerequisite. And then, of course, my ACC score had to be at a certain number, GPA. So I'm looking at it too. I'm looking at the requirements, and it's crazy, because if you just Google Tennessee scholarships, you won't see this one pop up.
Oh, wow.
But when he said the name of the scholarship, I look it up, and I'm looking at the requirements, and I'm saying I meet these requirements. Keep in mind, I applied to UT in October, November of my senior year. But when I was accepted into like a summer program. Like, I had to attend a summer program to attend. And, I'm like, this is my last summer before college. I'm not go to a summer program. So that's when I threw UT on the back burner and never thought about it again up until this point. And when he says you meet the requirements, then I'm putting in this appeal, and I go through this entire process. And the appeal was approved in the middle of June. So I didn't get to go through the full 3-day what's it called before
orientation.
I had to because it wasn't until July when I started to select dormitory and things like that. So I kind of got the last pick on that. I had 1-day orientation the day before school started, 2 days before school started. So it was a crunch for time, and like I said, it was a destiny thing. But that's how
it was free. But it was free,
and that's how I ended up at UT.
Dude, so hold on. I'm gonna tell you what's crazy about that. Like, there's a lot of similarities between your story and my story as it pertains to Georgia Tech. So coming out of high school, 1998, so I'm a few years older than you, but coming out of high school in 98, you were born in 96. I finished high school in 98, but coming out of high school in Augusta, Georgia, I applied to 7 schools and I got in to all 7, but one of the schools that I applied to was Georgia Tech. And I got into Georgia Tech, but my initial acceptance letter was, well, we regret to inform you, you've been denied acceptance to the fall semester. But if you're willing to enroll in either the summer or the spring quarter, summer or spring quarter, then we'll offer you admission into, Georgia Tech. And so long story short, I had to go to Georgia Tech in the summer. So I graduated from high school June the 1st. I started college on June the 20th. Yeah, it was 3 weeks. I had 3 weeks between the time I walked across the stage to the time I was moving into my dorm, at Georgia Tech in Atlanta.
Yeah, and so what that roller coaster was like. I mean, for me, it was middle of July, and all of a sudden, I had to plan the trunk party and get everything that I needed, select dorm, select everything. I kind of got the last pick of a lot with college, but and like I said, the main thing was I didn't pay attention when I went on the visit. So going there, it still felt brand new
because you weren't going. You didn't plan on going there.
When they sent me that letter saying I'd have to go through a summer program, it was over for UT, and there's already a natural dislike for the University of Tennessee from Memphis natives. So,
talk about that. Hold on, talk about that for a minute. Give people a little window into the dislike between Memphis and University of Tennessee.
So, it's like we're better on this side of the state and we're better on this side of the state type thing in terms of, I think from the Memphis side, it's more, UT is more recognized nationally. And, since, SEC football goes back to the 1930s and 40s and, things like that, it's more traditionally recognized. But Memphis is, I feel like, in terms of in the state of Tennessee, it's like we're trying to pass you. And this is how we're going to do it. Our basketball team, in the John Calipari days, there was the Memphis #1 versus #2 Tennessee game when you had Calipari and Bruce Pearl those days. And then football in my collegiate years, really up to this point, you had a lot of the Memphis fans saying our football program is, in a smaller conference, but we win games, we're having much more success. And, so there's that, that natural disdain there. And on top of that, it's like that throughout the entire state. Memphis and Nashville is a big, rival in terms of what's the best city in Tennessee. And UT, it's more of a college rival. It's more of we're the better college, even though, you got the glitz and glamour, you're the SEC school, more money. We're still producing a better football team. This is what their people say, the basketball program, has been more successful, in recent memory and things like that. So there's a natural dislike there, for Orange. You have that go to UT, but there's a natural dislike. But when I got to UT, it was different, growing up in school, just being around people in the neighborhood. All I knew was predominantly Black people. When I got to UT, I believe they said that our school was 7% Black, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it was 7%. So when I got there, there's this big culture shock where it's crazy because you're still in the South. So there's still the traditional, we eat the same in certain ways. We talk a little bit of the same, we use some of the same slang in certain ways, but there's a cultural difference that's deeper than that when you're talking about white people, Black people. And to experience that to that level opened my a lot of people, they say I know a lot of Black people who really didn't enjoy, their UT experience simply because it was so abnormal. And then there were so many challenges and the experience that the undermining, racial experiences that you had. But for me, it opened me up. I never, I felt like, looking back on it, I was in a box. All I knew was the Black people experience. But when I got to UT, it opened me up and I saw this is how they look at this, or this is how they view this. And it was challenging. My first 2 years, I think I definitely dealt with, some of the conforming things that Black people go through, when you get into those environments. You know how it is growing up, your mom talking to like a bill collector or something, and she does that little the voice switch and things like that. And I definitely, dealt with some of that my freshman and sophomore years, but I believe it was midway through my junior year, it got to a point where it's like, I am who I am. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, and that's who I'm gonna be 100% unapologetically. And that's where the flip switched, and I grew more comfortable with who I was, and that's helped me, all the way through now.
Oh, dude, I'm gonna tell you, that was such a powerful testimony in a sense of understanding who you are. And you don't always understand who you are until who you are comes under fire. You don't always understand who you are until who you are gets tested. So if you're always in a comfortable environment, yes, it's comfortable, but you don't grow in the midst of comfort. You grow when things are stressed a little bit. You grow when things are tested. You grow when things are stretched. And to me, it sounded like your experience at UT was that stretching moment, which got you out of your shell, but it got you out of your shell to realize that you have been equipped with everything necessary to continue on your path. And so, fellas, I want you to listen to what he mentioned there, because a lot of us have a tendency to default into what's comfortable. We want to default into environments that we feel completely safe, environments where we feel like everything, they eat the stuff I eat, listen to what I listen to, talk the way I talk, dress the way I dress, like what I like. I don't have to translate or white explain something so they can understand what we're talking about. Like those environments, yes, those are comfortable and those are needed and necessary. We got to have places to release. But I'll also say the value prop of putting yourself in environments that are not so comfortable, that forces you to really test how strong your convictions are, but then also it tests who you are. And Damichael, he said after about 2.5 years, he finally put his foot down and said, I am who I am. I'm Damichael Cole from Memphis, Tennessee. It is what it is, mine, as y'all say in Memphis, mine. You did. And so, but that's so important, man, to really understand who you are. And I think that's carried you forward. So talk to us a little bit. So you're a UT journalism, and then you mentioned earlier like an internship with Sports Illustrated, but then ultimately now you're a sports reporter with the Philadelphia Inquirer. Talk to us a little bit about that, that post-college trajectory, brother.
So my whole thing with college and looking back on it, I feel like, maybe I didn't have, they say college is supposed to be the best 4 years of your life. But I feel like for me, it was high school. High school where, I went out a lot and, I did, I had a lot of fun and, I had to, time of my life. But college, I don't know. I looked at it as more of a business trip in a way. And, with me getting the full ride, I didn't want to play around with that. And because, obviously if you lose that, then you know what comes behind that. And just with me being in Knoxville, being away from everything that I knew, it was like, okay, I need to work, And so in college, all I did was work for the most part. I believe my senior year I had 4 jobs. I had 2 journalism jobs outside of school, just at local places in the area, Maryville Daily Times and Roane County News, which were both 30 minutes or so away from Knoxville. And I would work at those throughout the week. Maybe Tuesday and Thursday do some high school or middle school games for Roane County. Then on Friday nights do football games for the Daily Times in Maryville. And I worked for a radio station back in Memphis. And I worked for the student newspaper all 4 years of college. And actually for the first 2 years on the student newspaper, I was the only Black guy. So that's, I was talking about the conforming and things like that. And my junior year is when I became the assistant sports editor and, creating more of that voice for myself. But I worked really hard to, stockpile my resume, give myself really good opportunities. I went to the All-Star game my senior year, covered it for the Tri-State Defender, where I interned before my senior year, which was a predominantly Black newspaper in Memphis. So I did all these things, and my senior year, I applied for what's called the Sports Journalism Institute, which is widely, very popular in, sports media. It's an internship for predominantly, minority journalists, and it's created by Greg Lee, Leon Carter, Sandy Rosenbush. These are people who are very known in the business. Mr. Leon Carter worked at ESPN, I believe, 10 plus years. He was vice president. Now he's at The Athletic. Greg Lee, he's at The Athletic now. And Sandy Rosenbush, who's still at ESPN, had a tremendous impact on all journalists, and especially, women in the business as well. So these are three, powerhouses that, and I knew, applying for this opportunity was a great, chance for me to curtail my career into something special. And, I guess it's a great point to make this, that I applied for this as a junior too, because it's for rising seniors and it's for seniors who are graduating. And I didn't get it my junior year. Didn't get it kept working, reapplied my senior year, just fixed a few things on my resume, updated my letter, and I got it after my senior year. So through SJI, what they do is you go through a 1 week boot camp with them where it's intense. And I'm talking about from you getting up probably 8 in the morning and you're working to 7, 8 o'clock. And it's nonstop work. It's a grind. It's very challenging, and it's competitive because you're with 12 of the best minority journalists in the country. It's very competitive. So SJI also, after the 1 week boot camp, they had, like I said, these 3 people, they're connected with some of the best. So the 12 kids are placed at different, media organizations throughout the country. For me, I was placed at Sports Illustrated. And it's funny because I actually got the call that I was selected while I was covering a basketball game. Like, that's literally how. And I never answered the phone while I was working, but I was sitting in the stands covering a game in Roane County, and I saw a Maryland area code pop up, answer the phone, realized I'm selected. It was a really good moment. But after that, I went to the boot camp, which was at Arizona State, Warrenton Cartwright School, one of the best journalism schools, in the country. And like I said, never been out of the South my entire life. I joke with New York and Philly that the farthest I'd ever been up north was Kentucky. And it's just like I said, I was in that box. So when I went to that boot camp for a week, that was my first time ever getting on a plane.
Wow.
And it was a paid for trip to Arizona State. So 1 week boot camp, you're with some of the best journalists, and I'm just soaking up the experience, partly seeing how do I stack up? And part of me is like, man, I need to really, take advantage of this, take notes of everything. And from there, I went to Sports Illustrated in the summer. Sports Illustrated is Sports Illustrated. It's New York City. Never been anywhere close to the magnitude of New York City. So now all of a sudden I'm staying here an entire summer. Definitely, a unique experience for a kid from the South. But I I worked and worked at that opportunity, and it just goes to show how much, and we used to talk about this a lot when I was in college, how much your network and your reach matter, because a lot of people ask me all the time, how did I end up at the Philadelphia Inquirer? Well, before I say that, when I left Sports Illustrated, I left in the middle of August. My first day at the Inquirer was it was September 31st, the end of September. That was my first day. So there was a month in between time where I was figuring out what I'm going to do next. There were small opportunities, and there were local opportunities, but there wasn't anything big enough where I felt like I needed to make a move at that time. So, with that being said, I said, I'm going to wait. I'm going to do this the right way instead of just jumping on something easy. And I got a call one day, just helping my grandma move. I was just helping my grandma move, and I got a call from Mr. Leon Carter, who was one of the 3 people, over SJI, Sports Journalism. And he said, how would you like to go to Philadelphia? And I said, the Inquirer? Like, for those that don't know, the Inquirer has produced, David Aldrich worked at the Inquirer, who's, made a big name for himself at TNT, which, was one of the spots that he was really big at. Stephen A. Smith is another one. Jason Stark, which is a national baseball writer now, is another. I mean, the Inquirer is big. It's one of the, I believe, 10 to 15 largest circulations in the country. So I'm saying, the Inquirer? He said, yeah. And, I'm all on board. So he connected me with the vice president of diversity and inclusion at the Inquirer, set up a meeting. They flew me up there probably a couple weeks later. And I go through this extensive, long interview process from everybody at the top all the way down to my sports editors, and just interview after interview after interview, 2-day period. It got to when I was in the room with my future managing editor over sports and the vice president of diversity and inclusion. When they put the offer on the table, they said it on the table, and they said, we don't want you to leave out of this room without taking this offer.
Wow.
And that was the moment, man. I've been at the Inquirer now for 1.5 years. Probably gonna be here a lot longer, but it was at that moment, and my experience in Knoxville shaped those type of opportunities, because being in Knoxville, even though it was to a lesser extent than cities like Philadelphia and New York, that was the first time I became out of my comfort zone. That was the first time everyone didn't talk like me, everyone didn't look like me, and things like that. And I had to grow into that in Knoxville. I had to grow into it. So when I got to New York, I already knew these people don't talk like me, they don't look like me, and I'm going, that's my advantage, because everyone asks me all the time, where are you from? Where are you from? And it's because I don't hide where I'm from. It's no cover up on me, with the way I talk, with the way, I say things, with the way I write. It's no. So
that's your secret sauce, though, right? Leaning in. I think you and I had talked about this offline before. Just the whole notion of, you bring a flavor that they ain't never seen before, right? I got a buddy of mine that I coach, and he's a comedian, and he's been a comedian in 3 different genres. And each genre, he's been able to generate millions and millions and millions of views in each one of these particular genres. And the thing that is so amazing about it is he brings himself to each particular genre, and every genre he's jumped into, he's been something that's totally unique and different. That's been his secret sauce. That's what has allowed him to rise. He's not trying to mimic anybody else. He's unapologetically who he is. And like you mentioned before, I am who I am. I am who I am. And that has carried you forward. But I'll also add another component. It's not what you know or who you know, it's who knows you. So somebody picked the phone up, called you and said, how would you like to go to Philadelphia? That wasn't somebody that you knew. That was somebody that knew you.
exactly. And just to speak more on that opportunity, to get to Philadelphia when I was going through the interview process, because they initially, it was a 2-year fellowship that they were bringing me in for, but they made it clear we don't want anyone. This was their exact words. We don't want to put training wheels, on anyone. They wanted me to come in and hit the ground running, and just, it talk. That's where they say, preparation is key in these type of things. Because I wasn't worried one bit. It's because I worked myself like crazy in college, and I worked at 3 or 4 media outlets my senior year, and I worked at the student newspaper those 4 years, and I had the internship at the Tri-State Defender after my junior year in Memphis, Tennessee. And then after my senior year, I interned at Sports Illustrated. So it was like I felt seasoned enough where, yes, I'm young and, it's going to be a lot of learning experiences. But, it was never a doubt in my mind that I could take advantage of that opportunity. And, that was my whole mindset. And fast forward now, I feel like, I've done a lot of great work at the Inquirer. We've done a lot of great things. And I'm still, getting into my own niche and things. And that's, in the next year or so, that's really going to, serve itself, because there are some things that we're working on where I'm really going to start to have, my own lane and whatnot. But I've done a lot of great work with the colleges mainly. Some of my biggest stories have been with the colleges. I've done, some work with the professional team, but mainly with the colleges, mainly with boxing. And, I just try to make myself, just as versatile as can be. And that's how they use me. I'm the main guy for boxing. I'm the main guy for tennis. I'm one of the main guys for colleges. I covered, we had 5 colleges that played this past season due to the pandemic. There are 6 Division I basketball colleges. I covered 4 of the 5 a lot. And that's not normal. Because you have beat writers usually for each school and things like that. But
hold on. You said that's not normal, but a minute ago you said I am who I am. So for you, that is normal. See, that's something that we have to be mindful of and catch ourselves as we start, conforming. You mentioned conformity a little bit earlier, because the reality is this: who you are is who you are. You're not normal. You ain't supposed to be normal. You're uniquely designed and built the way that you're built so that you can go and cover 4 and 5 different universities and colleges. Because again, you work for 4 or 5 different entities while you were in college. Match this stuff up, dude. So normal, we don't care about normal. This is all about Black male excellence. And we're shining a light on Black male excellence by highlighting your journey. And one of the things that's so interesting or amazing about this is when you understand who you are, that helps you in your career, that helps you as you grow and develop, but then that also helps in life, because life brings its own twists and turns. You know what I'm saying? And so, and so to that point, I know you've had to learn how to navigate twists and turns in life a little bit, especially recently with some various scenarios that are going on. How has you understanding, or how have you becoming really firm in who you are? How has that helped you in navigating some of the, the twists and turns that you've had to face very recently?
Yeah. It goes back to to conformity. It's a comfort level, and it's a support thing too. I feel like with any time I have a situation at home, my job is very, they're very easy to talk to. They're very easy to communicate with. My first managing editor, he really prioritized, family at home, especially for someone like over 1,000 miles away from home. So he prioritized, how's your family doing? Every time I come in off, how's your family doing? If you ever need a break, just let us know. But me being this college kid, just coming out of college, I always wanted to make a statement, show my work ethic, show, I can do these things. And early on, I tried to work myself through a lot of, things that were going on at home. I
Mm.
just work, just keep working, because my thing was, if I tell them, hey, can I take a day off for this or that? Eventually they're gonna probably think I'm taking advantage of certain things. But it was never that. It was just my mind being that I was such a workaholic. That was my mindset. But growing comfortable with with those people, with how much those words meant, like they were real words. And as I started to go through things, whether it was when one of my brothers was in the hospital, and they would say, take your time, take your time. And I stayed home in Memphis around Christmas and all the way up until February. I mean, and then I came back to Philly, and I was probably in Philly a month, and then my younger brother passed away. And I mean, I was off work 2 weeks, and there was never a rush. There was never uh, anything like that. So um, you know, once you have that, once you have that support, I feel like it makes it easier to just be expressive and be yourself when you're going through those type of situations. And if I didn't have that support, I probably would have handled it a lot differently, and it would have been a much different situation. But anytime something happens home, now it's to the point where I'm comfortable enough to say, um, I may need to take some time off. And granted, that work ethic is, it's still there.
Yeah.
Some people say I should have took more than 2 weeks off, but I felt like, working was something that I needed to get back to, because the itch was there. It's like I haven't wrote in a couple weeks, and itch was there, even though I'll say, my mindset wasn't 100% there yet. I was probably at about 80% or so. But the itch just to get back to work and get back to those things, and they talk about doing things in remembrance of people, and I know my brother's work ethic was something he was complimented about a lot, and that's something that I try to I aim to be very good at. And it was like, I know my brother wouldn't want me to just be sitting around, and so it's like, now you're talking about doing things in remembrance of him. And I know he'd be working. So that helped push me to get back to work too.
It's interesting, man. And I really applaud you for really just understanding who you are. But I also want brothers to be mindful of, you are who you are. I am who I am. But we still live in this world in concert with other people. And so the environments that you're associated with matters, right? And you're in an environment that really prioritizes family and understands, when something's going on, we'll give you the grace and space to do what's needed and or necessary, because we know your work ethics there. We know that you're going to bring things to the table, but at the end of it all, you still need the grace and space to be human. You know what I'm saying? And so having those environments, and so fellas, be mindful of the environments that you're associated with. Be mindful of the community that you build. Be mindful of the friends, the workplaces, the businesses you start. Be mindful of all of that, and make sure that those environments are conducive to you becoming who you're supposed to be, so that you can work and operate in the full magnitude of that, because it all works together. We don't live on an island in isolation somewhere. We got to have these environments that are going to be supportive, but we also got to have these environments in which we can add value and bring our best selves to the table. And so it's a blessing that those things came together, especially dealing with, various circumstances that have been going on. And so, man, we're praying for you, brother. It's just a lot going on, but me and you talk all the time, but I I got your back. And I know the brothers and the Black Fathers Now family are gonna keep you lifted, in the midst of everything, for sure.
Definitely appreciate it. And just hearing you talk, it just reminded me, just I mean, I've heard you say similar podcast time and time again, but just when I experience something like this, it put it in a larger magnitude, for myself, as us as Black men, especially sometimes from where we come from. I saw someone say one time that they weren't raised on love. They were raised on survival.
Mm.
And I heard that, it hit me because it was like, I didn't grow up, hugging on a bunch of people all the time. I love you. I love you. I love you. It was more, people telling me, no one's in your family ever done this. You gotta, are you gonna be the one to do that? You hear a lot of those things more so than the loving environments that some families are, given. It was more of a survival, or can you be the one to get the family out of this? Can you break these, curses in the family? Things like that. And I feel like, that's a survival. And all of that goes into the way we express ourselves, especially as Black men. Sometimes we aren't the most expressive. Sometimes like to, hold things in and be strong, as they say, and things like that. But I know being expressive is one thing that's really helped me, not only just going through the situation with my brother, but just being expressive, in the work field, in terms of, the fact that I moved 15 and a half, 16 hours away, 1,000 miles away from everyone that I knew. And, living by myself in my own place all of a sudden, and, just having to, live on my own. And, these are all things where I could have just bundled back and said, oh, I'm fine up here. Yeah, it's just, yeah, everything's fine. Where, I'm just at home by myself. And then I'm just saying, oh, yeah, everything's fine. I could have just, put myself in a very vulnerable position there. And, and I'm saying it's because probably there was a small period where I did. But could have put myself in a very vulnerable position there. And then same thing, we're going through a situation with my brother. Because there was you have the experience where it's like, you want to talk about it, but people won't understand and things like that. But at the same time, you have to be expressive. And I know sometimes as Black men, that's harder for us to do. It's harder, I guess, soft, I guess they'll say.
Mm-hmm.
But it's needed sometimes, and it's really needed. And it's really helped me. Like I said, the situation with my brother has helped me, just working, in the field, being so far away from family and things like that. Just not bundling up, those emotions like that, and just being expressive. So I just wanted to add that too.
The power of expression. And I'm gonna drop something here as we kind of wrap up. One of my cousins gave me some wisdom from my grandmother, and she said, we always grew up in this whole premise of what goes on in this house stays in this house, right? Like that's kind of the era that I grew up in. What goes on in this house stays in this house. Now we're in a social media era now, so ain't nothing staying in the house. But I grew up under that era of what goes on in this house stays in this house. And my cousin, shout out to Olivia, the Reverend Olivia Dorsey Tate, she gave me some wisdom from our grandmother. She said, yeah, what goes on in this house stays in this house, but some things that go on in this house need to be let out. That was a bar. When she said that to me, it really resonated. What goes on in this house stays in this house, but that's good stuff and bad stuff. Some stuff that goes on in this house needs to be let out. And that's been something, as you mentioned, Black men and expression and communication and opening up and doing what we do. That's a challenge that we have at times, is we want to make sure that what goes on in this house stays in this house. But the reality is, when it's stuff that needs to be let out this house, if you got a whole lot of smoke billowing in your house, you better open up some doors and open up some windows and let that smoke out. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's where it's amazing how, I look at how God positioned you in a career that is expressive, so that you naturally get your opportunities to express yourself, and it lets some of this stuff out, and you're able to funnel it out in a way that's productive, constructive, but then also therapeutic. And I'm the same way with this podcast. Like, this is so cathartic for me. It allows me to talk through ideas with dynamic brothers like yourself get things out of my head, because if they stay in your head long enough, it starts to swirl around, and what happens when things swirl around in your head, you end up borderline going crazy. And so it's best to get it out. So kudos to you, my brother. Keep doing the doggone thing. How can the fellas and ladies listening too, how can they read some of your work, listen to some of your interviews, check you out, all of that good stuff? Where can they follow you? Give all your tags out there, my man.
The main social media that I use is Twitter, and that's at Damichael, DAMICHAELC, and you can just search my name, Damichael Cole, as well, and my Twitter page will pop up. That's where I post, pretty much all of my stories, live coverage updates of the things that I'm covering in Philly and things like that. There are some updates as well on my Instagram page, which is my name at Damichael Cole, and my Facebook from time to time. But Twitter is where I post most of my work, or you can simply just, you could inquirer.com, which is INQUIRER.com/Damichael C. All of my work will pop up there. You can just type in, on Google, Damichael Cole, Philadelphia Inquirer. My latest work will pop up, and it'll be a link to my page where every story that I've written at the Inquirer is on there.
Gotcha. So fellas, ladies listening too, make sure on Twitter to follow is Damichael Steve.
Michael C.
Damichael C. Gotcha. Yeah. So on Twitter, make sure to follow Damichael C. You can Google Damichael Cole, Philadelphia Inquirer, and all his stuff will pop up. You can go to inquirer.com/Damichael C. and you can catch his information. Literally, man, it's pretty cool when you get to a place where you can just hey, just Google me. So you get into that spot, fam, when you can, man, just Google me. Google Damichael Cole, man. I'll pop up. You know what I'm saying? You get in there. And but definitely make sure to follow this brother, man. The young brother's doing the doggone thing. He comes with a unique, awesome perspective. He's up north. He's from down south. When you hear him talk, you might hear a mine. You know what I'm saying? Mine, because he's straight up from Memphis. But man, I'm super proud of you, brother, man. And I encourage you to continue doing what you're doing. Your story is going to inspire a lot of people, and you are who you're supposed to be, right? And just continue doing that, and don't let anything detract you from it.
Most definitely. Appreciate you for having me on here. And had a great time. Always a good time to chat with you, but definitely first time on Black Fathers Now. So appreciate the chat.
Absolutely. So fellas, ladies listening to, make sure to follow Damichael Cole. It's Damichael C on Twitter. Go Google the Philadelphia Inquirer, and you just search Damichael Cole. Google the brother. You'll see some of his latest work, man. He's doing the doggone thing as a sports reporter with the Philadelphia Inquirer. Super proud of this young man. Now, fellas, always follow Black Fathers Now on all social media outlets, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that good stuff. Whatever podcast platform or player you're listening to this on, make sure to leave some ratings, leave some comments, share this thing out. We want the world to know about Black Fathers Now. We want every brother on the planet to listen to Black Fathers Now, to get inspired by these stories. Black male excellence is on display, from some young brothers to some seasoned brothers. Is on display, and their tips, their tactics, their stories, there's inspiration, there's social proof of what's possible if you really just mount up and double down on who you authentically are. So as always, fellas, y'all be blessed, well, and wise, and I'll holler at you. Peace. Yo, fellas, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And always visit blackfathersnow.com, as well as follow Black Fathers Now on virtually every social media platform you can think of. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, everywhere. Just follow us and engage with us, man. Look forward to hearing from you. And I guess until next time, I'll holler at you. Peace.